Because your kiss is on my list. Because your kiss, I can't. Oh, what's up, guys? Hey, listen, I was reading up on one of these horror hound magazines, and I was learning about Evil Dead 2, and it dawned on me I've never actually ranked the Evil Dead series. Now, listen, if you're gonna ask me, like, what's a series that doesn't have any duds, without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Evil Dead franchise. And I'm gonna rank these, and I ain't gonna lie to you guys, this is gonna piss somebody off, I'm sure of it. But here's the beauty. Somebody out there will agree with this list, so it's going to be really fun, guys. And without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. Here is my ranking of the Evil Dead franchise as the way I see it, from worst to best. Here we go. So deciding what the worst one was, well, guess what I did over the last week? I rewatched all these. Yeah, I planned this video. I didn't just say I was going to do this at the spur of the moment. What is the worst Evil Dead movie? Well, I'll tell you what I think it is. It's without a shadow of a doubt, with this still being a good movie, Evil Dead Rise. Yeah, without any doubt that this is the worst one, in my opinion. But here's the beauty of this. The worst Evil Dead movie is still like a 4-star movie. Evil Dead Rise is fun. It's not that I really have any problems with this movie, so to speak, but I'm going to say something that would spoil the rest of this ranking, but I'll just say this. It's a good movie. The problem is, a lot of these movies are great, and I honestly enjoy this movie on a couple rewatches. I've rewatched Evil Dead Rise maybe 2 or 3 times. I like the mama a lot. I thought she played a great Evil Deadite, if you will. I like some of the small callbacks that they did, and I like most of the characters in this movie. I appreciate the high-rise apartment style. It is unique enough, and thinking that they were going to put this straight to streaming, then finally change their mind, thank God, because they would have made a horrible mistake by throwing this to streaming. This series deserves to be in the theater. And in a world where some horror movies just don't do well, the Evil Dead movies seem to negate that. They always are successful, and hopefully this isn't the end. We'll see more. But in terms of the Evil Dead films, Evil Dead Rise is good, really good, just not great. Okay, coming up next, I'm sure you're all probably wondering what could be next. This is where I piss people off. Coming up next is Evil Dead 2013. Now, amazing film. I love this movie. As a matter of fact, I gotta tell you a little story. When this movie was coming out, I am a Bruce Campbell fan. I love his movies. I love him in Burn Notice. I love him in Maniac Cop. I like Bruce Campbell. He's a great comedic horror actor. But when I found out that they were going to do an Evil Dead movie without him, I was very upset. I didn't think it could be done or done well. I went into the theater with my arms crossed like this, expecting to hate Evil Dead 2013. I loved it. I loved it. Listen, I gotta say this from this point on. In my opinion, the rest of these movies are 5-star movies. I don't say that about a whole lot of stuff. I don't like giving out 5 stars. As a matter of fact, I try to avoid it. But in actuality, if there's one horror series that I think deserves it, it's the Evil Dead series. There's so much quality there. Evil Dead 2013 to me is a huge leap over Evil Dead Rise. Now, I do have hope that another Evil Dead movie could come out and be even better than Evil Dead Rise again, but even if it gets a little bit worse than Evil Dead Rise, we're still in good standings, quite frankly. Evil Dead 2013 is amazing. I don't have a whole lot of gripes about it at all. It's just that I like the rest of these movies a little bit more. Okay, coming up next is the original Evil Dead. Now, I almost wanted to put this over Evil Dead 2, and let me explain why. When I was watching these movies, I started with, of course, the original Evil Dead, and I watched it in the 4-3 way, the way the movie was intended to be seen, and I gotta say, I loved it. I loved it so much that as I was watching it, and I was like, God, this movie's actually scary. There are some funny things about it, but for the most part, Evil Dead is scary. But as I was watching it, I said to myself, I don't think Evil Dead 2 is gonna beat this. I just don't think it is. This is gonna go higher up on the ranking. I can just feel it. And I loved the film, but I started watching Evil Dead 2, and I couldn't lie to myself. So, here's where things get interesting. Coming in at number 2 is Evil Dead 2. Yeah, Evil Dead 2, guys, what can I say? Evil Dead 2 has to be next for me. Now, here's what I will say. I think that the fan favorite out of all of these movies is, hands and away, Evil Dead 2. And listen, I got no problem admitting that. Evil Dead 2 is amazing. Some look at it as a remake of Evil Dead. I don't really quibble over that too much. I'm just judging the movie based off of what I see. There are things from Evil Dead 2 that are about as classic as anything from the decade. And I love the fact that Sam Raimi did so much practical stuff in here. And even at that time was like, wow, they're doing that in this movie? Like, there was like claymation stop motion stuff. Now, it's not that that stuff wasn't happening, but I don't think it was happening at such a pace anymore in the late 80s, because this was like 1987. But forget about it. Evil Dead 2 is a comedic masterpiece. I love it. And I think Bruce Campbell goes so ham in this one. The entire hand sequence to me is just insane. It's actually impressive. And I don't think he had a stunt double for that stuff. He's really just doing front flips and beating the hell out of his body. What can I say? I mean, I really didn't think I was going to put Evil Dead 2 over Evil Dead, but I can't lie. I do think that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell outshine the first one a little bit more. And listen, when it comes to horror comedies, that's my favorite subgenre of movies. It really is. And the fact is, making a great horror comedy is not easy, because comedy is already a thing that divides left, right, and center. Something that I think could be funny could not be funny to you, and it could be really funny to somebody else, but I don't think it's as funny as them. So to make a horror comedy that can work on a grand scale, that is so difficult. You have to give it up to Evil Dead 2. So this should come as no surprise, guys. My favorite Evil Dead film of all time, I don't think this movie will ever be beaten for me, is Army of Darkness. And believe me, this is not something that I would have intended to have thought, especially when I was watching these movies for the first times. I gotta be honest, the idea of Army for Darkness going back in time, I thought was just like an eye roll. I really did. But I think Bruce Campbell is at his best. My favorite scene from anything Evil Dead is in this movie, and that's when he gets thrown down into the pit with the pit bitch monster, as they call it. That entire sequence is amazing. And there's one scene where one guy gets thrown down there before him, and then you see the gush of blood just fly out of the whole thing. Army of Darkness is a movie that shouldn't have been made, because it came out in the 90s when 80s type of horror was dying out, but somehow Sam Raimi not only was able to make an Evil Dead 3, but not even call it Evil Dead. Everything about Army of Darkness is just a slip in the crack. This movie shouldn't have been made, but the fact is that it underperformed. I think half of the people didn't even know what it was. I have some friends that are older than me that said when it came out, they didn't realize that it was an Evil Dead film. They just thought it was something called Army of Darkness, and they didn't even really pay much attention to it. But without a shadow of a doubt, for me, Army of Darkness is it's probably top 5 greatest horror comedies of all time. Like, I would put Army of Darkness pretty close up there with Return of the Living Dead and like Texas Chainsaw 2. It's up there. It's one of the best. So my whole thing with this ranking is this. For me, I'm not saying this is always going to be the case, but at this point, this is how I feel. Evil Dead, it's at its best when Bruce Campbell is involved in it. I'm not saying he is Evil Dead, but at this point in time, I think he is. That's not to say that I don't love 2013 and Evil Dead Rise. Like I said, besides Evil Dead Rise, I think all these films are arguably 5-star horror movies. But I think Bruce Campbell makes Evil Dead what it is today. Now, in terms of the future, I'm always open to see what they do next, whether it involves Bruce or whether it doesn't involve Bruce. That's not going to make or break this for me. But at this point, when I think Evil Dead, it's at its best with Bruce Campbell. So that's my ranking, guys. Like I said, some of you may agree with this. Some of you may vehemently disagree with this. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Drop your rankings down below. I can't wait to hear from you guys. If you enjoy this video, please drop a thumbs up on it. If you haven't subbed yet, sub and come hang out with me in my horror room, and we'll talk about all kinds of horror movies in here. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Now, skedaddle. I'm gonna get back to reading my magazine.
Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.